guys, this is Judy from Pattern for Pirates, and I thought I'd show you what I'm making with the fabric of the month for the October box for Fabric for Pirates. We already showed you the fabric, what kind it is, what patterns it works well, but I just thought you'd like to sew along with me. I have my fall mood all set, so I'm going to be pairing it with some orange and black for a really fun little Halloween look. I really struggled deciding on doing Halloween or Thanksgiving or even a Christmas look. I tend to always make myself Christmas garments. It's my favorite holiday. So I went with Halloween because I don't think I have a single Halloween shirt or sweatshirt or anything in my closet. So time for something new, and I'll do a Halloween one. I prepped some of the pieces ahead, so I'll show you real quick what I've already done. I'm hoping those fun little silhouette pieces will really add to my garment. It does take a little bit of time to add things like that, but sometimes it's fun to add the little extra touch. And now I'm going to get started cutting. I'm making a sporty picot, and I'm going to be using the fabric of the month for most of the garment. I used a black French terry that's a baby French terry, which has a similar feel and blend to this one. It's a little bit lighter, but it will blend really well with it. And then the pocket piece I use is just a cotton spandex. All right. I'm going to show you from this angle, me cutting, so hopefully you can see most of what I'm looking at. I'm going to show you how to match your plaid on this. It's really easy. The repeat is really small, so you don't end up with that much fabric waste. Some plaids, if you try to match the plaid, the repeat is really big and you'll have a lot of fabric waste. Usually what I do then is I only match it a little bit. On plaids, of course, you can match the perfectly on the square, or you can just make sure it's horizontally okay. That's what I usually do myself. As long as the horizontal stripes are matching, that's all I really work for. But you can match it to where the seam, your square, is exactly the same. Okay, I'm going to grab my front piece. I'm going to do the crop, so I'm just going to fold my piece there so that when I want to make another sporty picot, I don't have to reprint if I don't want the crop option. So I'm just going to fold it along the line and place it along my fold. see, I've done a pretty good job at guessing. I'm a little bit short. I don't like to have the selvage in my, even in my seam allowance. I know a lot of people don't mind having the selvage in their seam allowance, but for me, I'd rather just use that extra 1/2 inch of fabric and not have to worry about it. The selvage is always slightly different from the rest of the fabric, usually more stable on knits. So what I'm doing as I'm folding is I'm just making sure that all my stripes are even down my fold, all my stripes are even where it's folding over. That way when I open it up, all these stripes are going to be nice and straight. Remember with knit fabric, you don't want to tug and pull at the fabric. You want to have a gentle hand when you're pulling and tugging it straight, because you don't want to stretch it, okay? You want your fabric relaxed so that you're not stretching and pulling it. It's something that I remember. I remember my mom setting out fabric just like this, and I would come over and try to help her get a wrinkle out or something, thinking that I was nice, and she's like, "No, don't touch it!" Because of course I wasn't doing it correctly. If you don't think your stripes are lining up, there's 2 reasons. One is the fabric is stretching, so you need to be more careful not to stretch your fabric. Another thing is sometimes the fabric isn't printed on grain. So that means you have to choose, do you want your pattern to match your stripes or plaid, or do you want it perfectly on grain? This fabric is folding up super nicely. I'm going to choose this point to match. It's a really easy point to match. On shirts, I almost always... Oh, you know what? I am not, because I forgot this Sporty Pico has that yoke on the back, and so I'm not going to pick that point to match. Instead, I'm gonna pick this bottom hem. So I'm going to pick a nice, easy way to align this bottom hem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to align the bottom hem up to an exact point on my square on my plaid. So I'm lining it up right where this white square starts, and then just letting my pattern be the rest of the way. I'm just going to notice that one spot right there, that one corner. I'm going to cut it out. You'll notice when I cut it out, when I cut out all my patterns, I always put a center notch. If I'm going to need to find the center, like a neckband, I always do a notch. And I do a notch right here because I'm considering adding a band on the bottom of this crop, so it's a little bit longer. I haven't decided, so we'll see there. I'm going to add it just in case I decide to add the band. I like to use scissors on this tight little curve right here, just so I'm getting it accurate. I really love using my rotary blade when I'm cutting out knits, but if I have anything a little more detailed, I always grab my scissors. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to mark my pattern. I'm going to mark my chest pocket. So what I'm going to do is just cut. And you can do this several different ways. This is what I usually do. I usually leave the piece just kind of cut out a little bit. Then I fold it along the last one that I left. You can leave any of the sides.
fabric marker of choice. Usually I only mark the corners. You can draw the whole thing if you want. There you go. And you can see my little corners there. Right now I need to cut the back piece. Let's see if I can fit it across the width here. I think I can with this 40 picot. Let's see. Yes, nice and safely. So I'm gonna fold it. Once again, I'm not gonna match my plaids completely down to the seam allowance. You can, all you need to do is draw your seam allowance on there so that you know you're getting it perfectly correct. My mom used to do this sometimes if she was doing plaid. So I'm gonna do this square right at the corner, just like I did this one. So I did it right where that white square stops. So I'm going to put this one right where the white square stops. Again, I'm not going to align them so that my plaids match up perfectly. It's just not that important to me to spend the time drawing my seam allowances. So here's my white square. I'm going to line this up right where it stops. Grab my pattern notes. I'm going to have to fold this bottom piece a little bit more. There we go. So if you wanted to match your plaid even more, what you'd have to do is grab this one and draw your seam allowance here. And then you'd have to match that with the seam allowance here so that you got this little tiny edge of this gray striped box after you sewed your seam allowance. Sometimes it's fun to do that just to show yourself you can. I'm going to draw a center notch here again to attach the yoke. And I'm also going to draw a center notch on the bottom just in case I decide to do that waistband. Okay, I already have my back yoke and my pocket, so I'm just needing sleeves, which I will do out of this main fabric. These sleeves are cut on the fold. So I'm going to fold my over twice and cut out both together. If you're new to matching stripes, sewing with knit, I recommend cutting one at a time because it can be tricky to do the double fold nice and neat and all aligned, and to cut through that many layers of fabric nicely and neatly. I'm going to do the long sleeves. I'm not going to worry about matching my plaid to my body. Have this flipped. If you wanted to do that, you'd match it at where it extends into the sleeve. So here, this turns into like a short sleeve right here. You can match your plaid right here if you wanted to. Your fabric's going to be going the other way, so you're never going to get it to match perfectly. I do not cut a center notch on these sleeves, even though they're on the fold, because my sleeve is not perfectly even on the front and the back. And so the center is not the shoulder seam, so I just don't mark the center at all. Not gonna need it for this pattern. Okay, we're getting there. I think I'm all done with this fabric now. I need neckband and cuffs, which I think I'm going to do in this coordinating black that I did the yoke from. It's really soft and snuggly. I think it'll be perfect for the cuffs and neckband. When you're folding knit fabric, it's always important to use your selvage as kind of your guiding line. I know it's hard to see because it's black, but as you can see, my edges aren't lining up here. This isn't the important part. Usually fabric stores do not cut it perfectly perpendicular to the selvage because it would take too long, and they just don't mind giving you an extra little inch or two. And so this is what you want to make straight right here. You want to make sure this is an even width all the way down. If it is, do not worry about where they cut. This selvage is perfectly straight off the roll always. Okay, so I'm going to grab my neckband piece and my sleeve pieces, my sleeve cuffs. I folded it a little long, but most of this is my selvage, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it. I'll show you how I cut neckbands. Even with a piece, I usually always use my ruler. I think it's much easier to get a precise cut using my ruler. I'm going to cut my notch here and move my ruler back. So I follow the piece, but I just align my ruler right next to the piece so I have that perfectly straight edge. If that happens to you, don't worry. Just realign your fabric nice and straight and not being pulled. For the end, I'm not going to use my straight ruler since it's pretty short. If it was a longer rectangle, I'd still use my straight edge to make sure it was nice and straight. Now we just need our sleeve cuffs. It's really important on patterns to pay attention to the grain line and stretch of your cuffs, whether they're on the fold or not. They can look wildly different. This one's a pretty standard cuff, so it looks exactly like you would think. But I know a lot of times if I have a really tall cuff on patterns, people can get very confused cutting it the opposite way, sewing it the opposite way. So make sure you always take notice of your stretching grain lines on your cuffs. If it's different than normal, if it's a taller cuff that has a really long edge, you might want to just mark it with a couple pins which one's the top, so you don't forget. Alright, I have my main front. Here's my main front with my pocket piece. I have my back yoke and my bottom piece, bottom back piece, my two sleeves, my two sleeve cuffs, and my neckband. I'm ready to sew it up.
at the waistband after all, so I did it in the black baby French terry. Have my cute little pocket on the front and my boo on the back. It's long enough that I can wear it out if I want to wear it out, and I'm still hoping I have enough of the plaid left over to make some little shorts for a cute little lounge set at home. I had a ton of fun sewing up this month's fabric, and I hope you do too. Don't forget to share with us.